Welcome to our 2024 Graduation Rate Indicator presentation from the Accountability, Development, and Policy Analysis Unit at the California Department of Education. I'm Catherine, and I'm joined by Sarah, and today we will be covering a short top-level review of the dashboard and a more in-depth review of the Graduation Rate Indicator. For the 2024 dashboard, the California Department of Education is releasing a series of on-demand sessions. These sessions are short, accessible videos which can be accessed at any time and will cover each of the state indicators in more detail, plus some other accountability information. Today's agenda includes an overview of the California School Dashboard, which we will refer to as the dashboard from here on out, followed by some general rules about the dashboard. Then we will cover all things graduation rate, followed by the differences between DataQuest and the dashboard, before moving on to a few frequently asked questions, and finally, how to go about contacting or reaching us with any and all of your dashboard questions. So here's Sarah to take us through a quick overview of the dashboard.
Thanks, Catherine. First, we'll start with an overview of the dashboard. The California School Dashboard is an online tool designed to help communities across the state access important information about students in transitional kindergarten through grade 12. The dashboard reports how districts and schools are performing on multiple state and local indicators that make up California's accountability system. The dashboard displays performance on 7 state indicators. Academic, which includes measures for both English Language Arts and Literacy, or ELA, and mathematics. English learner progress, chronic absenteeism, graduation rate, suspension rate, college career, or CCI, and finally, our newest indicator, science. For these state indicators, the measurement of performance for local educational agencies, or LEAs, schools, and student groups on the dashboard is done by looking at 2 years of data. Status, or current year data, and change, which is a comparison between the current and prior year's data. It's the combination of status and change that determines color performance on the dashboard. Performance is indicated on the dashboard by a gauge with 5 segments of different colors. Each level displays an arrow pointing to one of the 5 colors. The colors range from red, which represents the lowest performance, to orange, yellow, green, and then to blue, which represents the highest performance.
Thank you, Sarah, for that overview. Now we will go through the details of the graduation rate indicator, which represents the percent of students who graduated high school with a regular high school diploma. To start, the graduation rate indicator on the dashboard uses a combined 4 and 5-year graduation rate. The rate includes students who graduated in 4 years as part of the most current graduation class, and it includes students who graduated in 5 years as part of a cohort from the prior year. The inclusion of the 5th-year graduates was approved by the State Board of Education to provide schools the opportunity to demonstrate progress and success with students who may need additional time to earn a regular high school diploma. The exact formula of the combined 4 and 5-year rate, along with an example, is available for you in the note-taking guide. Since the dashboard uses a combined 4 and 5-year graduation rate, which students are counted in the graduation rate? Well, only students included in a cohort are included in the rate. So how do students get into a cohort? When students first enroll in grade 9, they become part of a graduating class and are included in the denominator of the cohort. Now, this class of students may also include those who transfer in later, such as in grade 10, 11, or 12. As mentioned earlier, only students who receive a standard high school diploma are counted as graduates. Keep in mind that students who receive a GED or a high school equivalency certificate or receive a special education certificate of completion are not considered as graduates by the U.S. Department of Education. Therefore, only students who receive a standard high school diploma are counted in the numerator of the graduation rate. Students who graduate high school early in less than 4 years are counted in the original cohort in which they began. The associated note-taking guide includes an example of this that may be helpful. In order to be counted as a graduate in 2024, a student must graduate and be recorded in CalPADS by August 15, 2024. When students transfer between schools during their time in high school, the question arises as to which school will be held accountable on the dashboard. The answer is that the last school where a student is enrolled at is held accountable for the student's graduation outcomes. Now, back to Sarah to explain how the graduation rate indicator will look on the dashboard.
So how will the graduation rate indicator appear on the dashboard this year? Not much has changed from last year when the dashboard returned to colors. This means it will again have the colored banner across the top of the card, as well as the performance level or color in the form of the gauge with the color explicitly written out. In the example that you see here, the gauge is pointing to the color green. There is an option to select the All Students group or compare it to the state student group results. Additionally, we see that the current year status is listed as 93.5% graduates. The card also indicates whether the status changed from the prior year, and it shows here that it increased by 2.1 percentage points. The equity report at the bottom of the card shows the number of student groups in each of the performance levels or colors for a particular school or LEA. Here we see that there are 0 student groups in red, 1 in orange, 0 in yellow, 7 in green, and 1 in blue. This top-level report can assist schools and LEAs to review any inequities that may be occurring within their student groups. Now at the very bottom of the card, there is a link to view more details, which takes you to specific student group information and trends in data over time as available. Now, to determine a performance level or color for the graduation rate indicator, and for all state indicators on the dashboard, a 5x5 table is used. The 5x5 table that you see here is one for the graduation rate indicator. The top row represents change from the prior year. The change levels are declined significantly, declined, maintained, increased, and increased significantly. The first column shows status levels indicating performance on the most current year. Status levels include very high, high, medium, low, and very low. The intersection of status and change results are used to determine the final performance level or color for an LEA, school, and student groups. Now, referring to this 5x5 table, in order to receive a blue performance level, an LEA, school, or student group would need one of the following combinations: a very high status and a change level of either declined, maintained, increased, or increased significantly, or a high status and a change level of increased significantly. To receive a green performance level, an LEA, school, or student group would need a status of high with a change of maintained or increased, or a status of medium with a change of increased or increased significantly. To receive a yellow performance level, you would need a status of high with a change of declined, or status of medium with a change of maintained, or status of low with a change of increased or increased significantly. For an orange performance level, you would need status of high with a change of declined significantly, or status of medium with a change of declined significantly or declined, or status of low with a change of declined or maintained. Finally, an LEA, school, or student group would receive a red performance level with a status level of low and declined significantly, or a status of very low and any of the change levels, so declined significantly, declined, maintained, increased, or increased significantly. This last red row is different from the other indicators and reflects the requirement under the federal Every Student Succeeds Act to identify high schools with a graduation rate of less than 68% for school support. Therefore, all LEAs and schools with a graduation rate below 68% are placed in the red performance level. So, what happens when the count of students are small? To limit large swings in the change data that can be triggered by just a few students, the State Board of Education approved the application of a 3x5 colored table when the student population size is less than 150. For the graduation rate indicator, the 150 count is based on the number of students in the denominator of the combined 4- and 5-year graduation rate. As you can see from this 3x5 table, the two most outer change columns increased significantly and declined significantly, seen in a traditional 5x5, have been removed, leaving only declined, maintained, and increased. However, the same 5 status levels that we saw earlier in the 5x5 table are still utilized, and they are very high, high, medium, low, and very low. Therefore, to receive a blue performance level on the 3x5, an LEA, school, or student group would need a very high status and a change level of either declined, maintained, or increased. To receive a green, you would need a status of high with a change of maintained or increased, or a status of medium with a change of increased. To receive a yellow performance level, you would need a status of high with a change of declined, or a status of medium with a change of maintained, or a status of low with a change of increased. For an orange performance level, you would need a combination of a status of medium with a change of declined, or a status of low with a change of declined or maintained. Finally, an LEA, school, or student group would receive a red performance level with a status level of very low and any of the change levels like we saw earlier with the 5x5. So here they are declined, maintained, and increased. Did you know you can verify your 4-year graduation cohort rate before these data are extracted out for use for the dashboard? Specifically, LEAs can validate their 4-year cohort counts prior to the close of the CalPADS certification window by reviewing CalPADS Report 15.1 for summary results and CalPADS Report 15.2 to access the student-level data. These reports are available all year long and can be reviewed throughout the CalPADS end-of-year certification window. The note-taking guide does contain a link to the 2024 handbook that details how you can access these CalPAD reports. As a reminder, the use of modified methods was discontinued beginning with the 2022 dashboard due to the U.S. Department of Education's denial of California's waiver. Therefore, the Dashboard Alternative School Status, or DAS, 1-year graduation rate is no longer used for accountability for the graduation rate indicator. However, we know that this information remains valuable to our DAS schools. Therefore, the CDE will continue to report the DAS 1-year graduation rate for schools identified for DAS. This rate is reported on both the dashboard and in the school dashboard additional reports for informational purposes only. It is not used for any accountability support determinations. The note-taking guide contains further details on what resources are available to you for the DAS 1-year graduation rate.
Next, I'd like to cover some of the differences between DataQuest and the dashboard for the graduation rate. Now, many schools and LEAs use both DataQuest and the dashboard to understand their data. While both report graduation rates, there are differences in the way the data is calculated and reported. First off, keep in mind that the graduation rate for DataQuest only reports the 4-year cohort, while the dashboard displays a combined 4- and 5-year graduation rate. DataQuest also include charter schools in their district authorizers reports. There are filters available to include or exclude from the authorizer reports. However, the dashboard always has charter schools excluded from their authorizers results, since charter schools are considered LEAs for accountability purposes under the Local Control Funding Formula, or LCFF. One final difference between DataQuest and the dashboard is how students with disabilities are reported. On DataQuest, students with disabilities are reported at the district of attendance. On the dashboard, they are reported at the district of residence. This will be covered a little later in the presentation, and more information can be found in the note-taking guide.
So now we are moving on to some frequently asked questions. These represent a collection of the most common questions we received that we thought would be helpful to review. So, the first question is about early graduates. The question is, if there is a grade 11 student who is graduating this year, then when is this early graduate included in the graduation rate? Keep in mind that early graduates in grade 11 are included along with the rest of their class. Therefore, if a grade 11 student graduated this year, then the student will not be included in this year's graduation rate. The student will be included in next year's graduation rate along with the rest of the student's classmates in the cohort. The next question asks why students who completed a high school equivalency test are not counted as a graduate for the combined rate. The U.S. Department of Education requires that only students who receive a standard high school diploma are counted as graduates. This is why students who complete the GED, California Proficiency Program or CPP, or any certificates are not included in the numerator of the combined graduation rate. The new question this year is about the alternative diploma pathway. The 2021-22 Education Omnibus Budget Trailer Bill included that students with exceptional needs who entered 9th grade in the 2022-23 school year or later, attending a school district, county office of education, charter school, or state special school can graduate from high school through a newly defined diploma by meeting certain requirements. Students exiting with this school completion status code within 4 or 5 years of their initial 9th grade cohort entry year will be counted as graduates in the 4-year and 5-year adjusted cohort graduation rate for the dashboard. Next, we have a question on the DAS 1-year graduation rate and whether this rate is used for accountability. The answer is that no, it is not used for accountability. This means that it is not used for differentiated assistance determinations at the LEA level. It is also not used to determine schools for targeted support and improvement, or TSI. The combined 4- and 5-year graduation rate that is calculated for DAS schools is the rate that is used to determine support. Keep in mind, though, that the California Department of Education continues to report out the DAS 1-year graduation rate on both the dashboard as well as the school dashboard additional reports. Viewers are able to access the number of students in the numerator and denominator of the rate within these reports. And the last question is, can I still update my graduation data for the dashboard even though the end-of-year certification window has closed? Once the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System, or CalPADS, end-of-year window closes for the year, any data revisions made in CalPADS afterward will not be incorporated into the dashboard. Therefore, we highly recommend that LEAs confirm their CalPADS data prior to the close of the end of the year window. This concludes our specific review for the graduation rate. If you need additional help, we've provided some resources in the note-taking guide. This includes a link to the California Department of Education, or CDE's, Graduation Rate Indicator webpage. This webpage will take you from A to Z on everything you need to know about the state indicator. It has links to flyers, cut scores, and anything else you might need. On that page, you'll also find a link to the 2024 Technical Guide, where there is a specific mini guide on the graduation rate. We also have a School Dashboard Additional Reports webpage where districts and schools can find graduation rate data that is more specific than the data found on the dashboard. For example, you can find both the number and the percent of students who are included in the combined 4- and 5-year rate, including the number of students who are counted in the denominator. This report is an easy way to compare results between schools or student groups.
Thanks, Sarah. Now, let's walk through some general rules about the dashboard. First, we want to clarify a rule about charter schools that's unique to the dashboard. Because charter schools are treated as LEAs under the Local Control Funding Formula, or LCFF, their data are not included in their authoriser's dashboard report. This includes both direct and locally funded charters. Next, we want to review what the accountability and size thresholds are and how they will be displayed on the 2024 dashboard. If the N size is 30 or more students in the denominator, then the graduation rate is reported on the dashboard along with the status and change data. There is an option to select the student group or compare it to the state student group results. In the card seen here for the all student group, the performance level or color is green and the gauge is pointing to the green color. The card shows that 93.1% of the student group graduated and that the student group maintained with a 0 percentage points change from the prior year. The number of students, or N size, is 3,208. If any LEA school or student group has 30 or more students in the denominator, they will be held accountable for differentiated assistance at the LEA level and targeted support and improvement, or TSI, at the school level. Next, we will review when the N size is between 11 to 29 students in the denominator. For the sample homeless student group card provided, only status data are reported on the dashboard. There is an option to select the student group or compare it to the state student group results. The card displays that 100% of this student group graduated. The number of students, or N size, is 13. And because this is between 11 and 29 students, the card displays a no performance color and a grayed out gauge. For any reporting of 11 to 29 students in the denominator, the LEA school or student group is not held accountable for differentiated assistance at the LEA level and TSI at the school level. And finally, if the N size is less than 11 students in the denominator, then no data are reported on the dashboard to protect students' privacy. There is an option to select the student group or compare it to the state student group results. Now, as you can find in this card for the African American student group, because there are 6 students, the card displays a no performance level with a grayed out gauge and will not display data for privacy. Additionally, any LEA school or student group with less than 11 students in the denominator is not held accountable for differentiated assistance at the LEA level and TSI at the school level. There are, however, N size threshold exceptions to the rules. They apply to the foster youth, homeless, and the new long-term English learners, or LTEL, student group, as their N size thresholds are different at the LEA and school level. At the district or LEA level, there must be 15 or more students in the denominator to be reported on the dashboard and held accountable. At the school level, there must be 30 or more students in the denominator to be reported on the dashboard and held accountable. For this exception, charter schools are treated as schools and not LEAs. Therefore, charter schools will need 30 or more students in the denominator for the foster youth, homeless, and LTEL student groups to be held accountable. And finally, the District of Special Education Accountability, or DSEA. The DSEA rule is applied to all available state indicators for students with disabilities who receive special education services at another district or county office of education. These students are sent back to the District of Residence, or DSEA, and are included in the DSEA's dashboard. For example, the district where the student geographically resides is held accountable for the student's graduation outcomes, and that data is included in the District of Residence graduation rate indicator. Please note that this rule applies to LEAs only. All schools, including charter schools, are held accountable for all students with disabilities. This rule has been applied since 2017 for the academic indicators and the 2020 reporting of the graduation rate and CCI data on the CDE School Dashboard Additional Reports website. It was applied for all indicators starting on the 2022 dashboard and beyond. For more information, refer to the District of Special Education Accountability Rule for Students with Disabilities flyer on the Dashboard Communications Toolkit webpage. If you have any questions about any of the information we have covered, we are just an email away. Our email address is dashboard@cde.ca.gov. We also invite you to follow us on X at CDE Dashboard. And that concludes this on-demand session. Thank you so much for tuning in.